All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's going to be a great week. A lot of my companies that I have high conviction in are reporting, more specifically Palantir, Rocket Lab tomorrow. And then we have Celsius and Dutch Bros on Tuesday. So it's going to be a very action-packed front end of the week. And I'll be flying back to the Northeast to close on a house on Friday. So it'll be very jam-packed. I already just finished uploading the conversation about Rocket Lab. So if any of you guys are interested in that, be sure to check that out with respect to kind of what I'm expecting for earnings and really what's going on, hopefully, for them in the latter half of 2024, early 2025. This one's going to be specifically about Palantir. I haven't made a Palantir video in quite some time, but hopefully haven't lost all my viewers in that time. And hopefully you guys are interested in hearing potentially what I have to say. It's not anything groundbreaking with respect to what Palantir is going to be doing in terms of the earnings tomorrow. Yes, what Palantir does is groundbreaking, so don't get angry at me and don't hang me on a cross because I said not groundbreaking. Of course, what Palantir does is very, very much well respected in my eyes. So let's just take a quick look here and really focus on what they had laid out for the first quarter expectations. They didn't leave much, really just two line items here with respect to revenue and adjusted income, and then they talked about full year 24 earnings as a whole. I'm not really going to talk much about full year 24, but I think that there's some things that we could pull from that to help understand where we think certain measurements are going, certain key performance indicators like cash flow margins and stuff like that. So we'll pull on that in just a moment. Really, the big thing I want to touch on here is revenue between 612 and 616 million. That's kind of shallow compared to if we were to look at the 1Q earnings from 2023, specifically highlighting the 1Q23 business highlights here. Whoops, sorry about that. The business highlights here. So let me just move myself over to the upper right. 525 million, if I remember, was where they were at, and they had revenue growth from the first quarter of 2022 of 18%. I actually still think this is going to decelerate. Maybe it'll match the 18%, but just doing the 612 to 616, that gets you to about mid 16% to mid 17%. So maybe if you round it up, you'll get to 18. But I still see there's an opportunity to get to, say, 620 million, But overall, if you think about it, that's not bad. I still see the U.S. revenue, more specifically commercial revenue, being the bulk of that growth kind of coming out with continued slow movement going on in Europe. I just don't think that we've really had the uptake on that. And I don't want to beat that with a dead horse because they talked about that quite regularly on Palantir Weekly. This cash flow from operations piece, last year they came out with a 36% margin, just based off of this note that they have here of 196 to 200 million. Let me highlight that for you guys here. It's about a 32.5% margin. Now, if you go into specifically the fourth quarter earnings, sorry, I'm jumping around different presentations here, but if I remember correctly, yeah, here we go. Here's kind of like your adjusted operating income or cash flows that you're kind of seeing from the company. You're trending up and to the right. So things are going relatively well in that respect. Do they have one specifically for cash flow margins? Not so much, but things are trending up and to the right with respect to kind of the margins that you're seeing out of the organization. And that's only going to increase, right? Palantir is very much a company that knows how to keep operating expenditures down. Yes, there's an underlying general sales administrative cost that the company is going to have, but we're now blowing past that. And we have been blowing past that for about 2 years now. And that's one of the reasons why in 2021 and 2022, I was banging the table, knowing that from a specifically adjusted operating income basis, this company is knocking it out of the water. Now, of course, you include share-based compensation, all that stuff that hits net income. When you include some of that non-cash items and material, that's when everyone's just like, oh, it's going to zero, right? No, it's not making any money. But if you remove some of those and only look at the cash flow coming into the organization, you would have been able to predict this many, many moons ago, which is why, I was buying in the low teens and even single digits in most of the time. And this is actually one of the reasons why I bought in 2020, because I had to foresee that, things were going to be swinging in that direction. And that's why I've held with conviction since that time. So anyway, going back to this particular piece here, I think you're only going to see this continue to go into the mid 30s and high 30s as time progresses. And I eventually think this is going to be something that's in the 50-60% range as you continue to get more and more revenue coming through the door. So there's that piece. I think gross margins will hang in there, close to the 83 to 85%. I don't really expect anything too crazy associated with that. Average TTM for customers, I think that'll increase year over year by about 10%. I don't expect anything crazy associated with that. We talked about total revenue. This is last quarter, but that's 608 million. I don't really expect it going up too crazy. I could see maybe the 620 range, but actually it makes me think a little bit. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of numbers on the side, but 616 divided by 608, you're really only going up 1 or so percent in terms of sequential revenue growth, which isn't the best, right? If you think about it in that perspective, and you're really only seeing cash flow from operations grow actually a year over year basis, really only like 4 or 5%, which actually is pretty abysmal if you think about it in that respect, because it was 187 and now you're looking at 196 to 200. Nothing groundbreaking there, right? And so I think this is going to be a continued quarter delivery. I think it's the slow and steady race that I think Palantir really wants you to get towards. I think that if we can kind of maintain, let me go back to this Q4, we can kind of maintain getting closer and closer to this 20% revenue growth and maintaining great ops margins and cash flow margins in the 30-ish percent as we continue to grow close from 15 to 25% within that sort of peak and valley. Once you get this company to generate, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with respect to the fiscal year 2024 predictions, they're getting close to $1 billion in cash flow, within the year, if not next year. And that just goes to show you, we know the company has a pretty good cash pile already. I expect the company to end this particular quarter, the first quarter, with, going from 3.7 to 3.9 billion. But if you think about it, that means literally in 12 months from now, the company will have close to $5 billion worth of cash, because we're going to be generating 800 million to $1 billion of free cash. So what are you going to do with the $5 billion? Like, this is where I'm starting to get to with respect to, start to initiate a little bit of a buyback or something like that, unless they can generate an idea or an inkling as to what they're really going to be using this cash for. Then, I struggle to see, like, at least get the shares that you're issuing out to people. And I don't want to get up too much on a soapbox. The share count since direct listing has gone from 1.5 billion to almost 2.5 billion. It's at 2.4 billion if you do the fully weight diluted share count. That's an explosion of 60% of the total shares in a matter of 4 years. So we need to get that under control and at least arrest the growth, right? And so I'm not asking for billions of dollars a year, right? So the company doesn't make billions of dollars a year in terms of cash flow, right? But what I'm asking for is a little bit of a drip, 50, $100 million a year, and just slowly at least offsetting and grow that with time. Is that, I'm looking for 5 to 10% of the cash flow from operations in terms of buybacks, right? And I think that that's reasonable given how much equity has been diluted since 2020. So one of my shares that I bought back in 2020 is now, worth 60% less because it went from 1.5 billion shares outstanding to 2.5 billion shares outstanding. So somebody that's been holding and believing and having conviction of the company, unfortunately, I've been diluted 60%. Right? Doesn't feel very good in that respect if you think about it that way. And so, I'm not saying that needs to happen, but this company is going to generate a crap ton of cash, and I'm really just trying to understand, what's really going to happen with it, and that's what I've been kind of scratching my head personally, because the company has been holding it, and I don't mind them holding a large cash position, no debt. I think that's great. They're obviously making $160 to $170 million a year in just interest income associated with the $3.7 billion for 4.5%. In terms of treasuries, savings accounts, etc. So that's helping balance that. But once they kind of get over that hurdle, and they're making a large amount of cash flow from operations on their own, and really not necessarily having to focus on the interest income to really be GAAP profitable, they can really just focus on their business. Then what are you going to do with all that cash? And that's kind of where I'm sitting, and I'm just trying to understand. So I'm hoping with that you continue to see the great work that's been going on with AIP. We're now 9 months in, almost closing in on a year's worth next month. But obviously from a quarter's perspective, 9 months or 10 months of application. And then in the second quarter, we're here about, what's going on with the full year worth of AIP and rollout and everything the like. And great things have happened, right? AIP cons have gone extremely well, and much else. But I'm really starting to hope to understand maybe the impact of how much Foundry usage, Gotham usage has increased with AIP. And I still think a lot of people are assuming AIP will be something that is charged on its own. And I still think it's a complementary product that will allow you to focus on usage of your Foundry and Gotham products. And if you use usage-based, right, very much similar to how Snowflake uses their sort of stuff, like the more you're accessing, the more you're computing, the more you're going to get charged. If Palantir focuses more on that sort of model, then AIP is really only going to explode the amount of pricing or revenue that they generate from Foundry and Gotham. Because instead of somebody having to slowly click themselves and do all that, if you have the compute and the AIP and the guide rails to kind of get through those workflows in a much more efficient, faster pace, something that might have taken you 2 to 3 hours on Gotham or Foundry might take you 5 to 10 minutes. You've now been able to accomplish 2 to 3 hours worth of work in 5 to 10 minutes. The usage is still the same, and now you have an additional 2 hours and 50 minutes, let's say, to focus on other projects or other things that you might be using within Foundry. So it unlocks that ability to continually use and get more and more revenue. Whether or not that's how the model is going to go down, I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of moving more away towards, just way I think is going on and what's going to eventually happen with Palantir and Foundry and Gotham and the pricing model versus what's actually going on in fiscal year, the first quarter here of 2024. So anyway, I'm excited about it. Continue to hold shares. I'm excited about writing covered calls on Tuesday. Hopefully we see a nice little price increase. I'd love to write some covered calls in the low 30s to mid 30s. I do weeklies. I don't do monthlies. The problem is I guarantee a lot of people are going to be writing, 2 to 3 months down the road. And next thing you know, this thing might pop or who knows what. But I'm not going to do any price targets. I think my Palantir article said that would be hanging out majority of the year between 20 and 30 bucks. I still think that holds. I don't think that there's going to be any major step changes. I hope I'm humbled by that statement in terms of step changes in earnings or anything like that. That really demonstrates, a massive price spike. But as always, I think the company will come out with some surprises and it'll go well. So hopefully we see the stock bump up to 25, 26 again. But I don't see a reason why it would bump into the 30s unless they come out with some other product that they haven't really been alluding to. But they didn't wait until the quarterly earnings report to release AIP. So I doubt that they would do the same. They generally are pretty good about whenever the product's ready to release, the product is ready to release. So fingers crossed. It'll be fun tomorrow evening, listening to many folks. I'll probably focus on the Rocket Lab call personally, because I know Amit and many others will be focusing on the Palantir call. So good for them, and I'm sure they'll do a really good job. They always do a phenomenal job. So really excited to hopefully get some good numbers in tomorrow. Once again, I think this is going to be a long-term hold, right? Anybody that's in this for getting to $50 tomorrow, well, I hope you sell your shares and you really don't, dilute the message that's really going on with an awesome American company that's really started to come into its own. I think this is going to be slow and steady wins the race. I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Chris Patel or somebody else that basically talked about it's going to be like Salesforce, right? 20% year over year, and they're just going to continue to dominate. Next thing you know, they're going to have net margins in the 50s and 50% range, and they're going to be generating $10 billion a year in revenue. Next thing you know, they're going to be churning out a shit ton of cash, and that's where I honestly think we're headed towards. So anyway, 10 years down the road, my thoughts have never changed on that. It was always a late 2020s or early 2030s play for me. And so far, I've been rewarded up over 100% on all my shares. So yeah, hopefully we'll continue to see good progress, and hopefully we'll be able to grow this into the first. Well, it was already the first $100,000 position, maybe the first $150,000, $200,000 position if Rocket Lab doesn't beat it to it. So, all right, guys. Well, 15 minutes in. Hopefully that finds you guys well, and really hope everybody has the best of luck tomorrow. And if not, for me, it's a 10-year game on this one. So hopefully you're not just hoping to get your money and run. Hopefully you're in it for the long haul, because this could be the next Microsoft, in my opinion. But I know I've gotten dragged over the rails by Joseph Carlson and many others saying that this is the AWS or whatever of AI, right? So anyway, no beefs with respect to that. So I just think, it's my opinion. I think it's going to continue to do really well. So, all right, guys, talk to you soon. Cheers.